Because you can see, tracks from cars that have passed hours ago.
Yeah.
They have a thermal signature.
Yes.
So you just follow the tracks.
There is always something on the end of the track.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can always use that to lead them somewhere else. Well, that's
Exactly.
thinking
See,
about the,
he's in the right way.
Welcome to ufprogear 30, guys. Today we have picked a very hot topic, literally a very hot topic, and that is also the reason why Darko and I thought it's a good idea to invite somebody who is really an expert on that, and that is Marko from the company C-Astral. And Marko is actually, the guy. Or how would I put it? He's actually on the other side of what we are doing. So we are providing clothing, and Marko is the guy who invents drones who are watching us actually when we are moving on the battlefield. So I thought for a topic like, and here it comes, it's thermal masking, it's thermal identification, it's thermal vision. That topic seems to be one of the hottest topics over the last couple of months. We have experienced a lot of requests coming from the users, coming from organizations, what they could do in order to reduce their thermal signature, and what would be better to have somebody like an expert like you, Marko, who really does it. So why don't you just kick off and tell us a little bit what you are doing?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Pleasure.
My pleasure is also mine. So, this is a hot topic, literally, right?
Yeah.
That we have to cool it down. Yeah. And of course, in terms of just the spectrum, the thermal signatures are always extremely important, also in nature. Yeah. So nature and temperature and thermal gradients are actually, these are essential elements for natural processes on all levels. And we have finally developed a set of sensors, not we as C-Astral, we're just integrators of them. We developed uses for those sensors, but as science has developed sensors that can actually discern very precisely temperature gradients, I think that within there's also a response of how to counter and defeat them. Yeah, you have to look at that.
Which would be definitely the thing that I would be most interested in. What's the temperature differences that these sensors can detect?
Oh, you have, first of all, most of the sensors that are used nowadays in a contemporary battlefield from, let's say, middle sophisticated actors would be in the low infrared range. Yeah? Whereas mid-infrared sensors and shortwave infrared sensors, those provide a much more precise signature, and the spectral signatures also not only for temperature but also different elements such as gases and so on. So even the detection of any kind of exhaust becomes much more, it's not temperature based, but it's spectral signature based.
Wow.
So we're really talking about spectrality, literally, figuratively, and also physically, in this situation. So, the electromagnetic spectrum is all we have, and we deal with it. I mean, you as a company deal with it on the level that you have, with colors and so on. That's the most basic spectral signatures. But of course, when we get to thermal, it's a different story. And the dissipation of thermal signature is probably the answer. Yeah. But I would always look into nature for that.
Yeah. But as I understand, sorry guys, I want to step let's say, take 2 steps back. But as I understand, the company C-Astral is actually producing or manufacturing UAVs.
Correct. Yeah, we are a UAV integrator.
Yeah, and you integrate then the different technologies based on the user's needs, or you.
Correct. Yeah, we've been.
Okay, it's just.
we're a UAV integrator, but my personal, really deep interest is exactly in the electromagnetic spectrum and how we shape it. And understand it and read it. Yeah.
But currently you're in drones, so you integrate it into drones.
Yeah, our systems are aerial systems currently. So we started the company as producing unmanned aerial vehicles in 2007. I go back in this field to '99, where we had, a very interesting and very similar problem. I was working on the research station that I built in Western Australia, and there was a group of whale monitoring scientists. They were whale migration people, comeback whales, which are fascinating animals per se, and so on so many levels. And of course, they were doing this exactly through thermal signature. They had some really large, cool sensors on the beach that were military grade, huge, expensive, heavy, and they were doing this with the statistical method. They were essentially, counting these signatures in the water when in this field of view, and then calculating the statistical probabilities of how many whales are more there in the end, right? So it's a very, not very precise system. And I'm looking at this for 2 weeks. Yeah, these guys, it was mostly math, what they were doing, not so much observation. And then I thought, why don't we build a robotic airplane? And put this camera on it, and then just do a search pattern, and we will have a much better statistical starting point.
Sure.
Count the whales from the.
And then I thought, okay, robotic airplane. I had no knowledge. I have a personal knowledge in the RF world, yeah, mostly radios stuff and communications. So I went deeply into that, like I do. I wanted to learn everything about robotic aircraft, and then I learned about, of course, UAVs, and I have always been an aviation buff, so it was a very easy transition. And the rest is history. I made kind of a manifestative project around this idea. I understood the potential of it. We did a big project in Vienna, in Karlsplatz in 2004, which was called Spectral System. There you go. System 77 CCR. Civil counter reconnaissance. And it was a big scandal actually in Vienna, because the then interior minister basically, because this was in the context of tactical media arts, presented, but it was presented as a real thing. Yeah? There was a UAV presented. This is a civil society. We will now, we are empowering to control against the abuses of the state and all of this. So it became a really crazy story. And then in the end, they went to him, the TV. This is also documented, the Austrian TV. So what do you think about this group of engineers from the East? Building,
actually from the West.
Building building drones in the middle of Vienna, And he said, well, I can only tell you that, there are things that are restricted, but art is free. Kunst is frei. So, that was a good story. But that's how the story happened. This is how we met, and the rest is history. We started working with unmanned aerial vehicles. We built the first prototype in 2005, and the first flight in 2007. First flight of our main product, which was a main product for 12, 13 years, in 2007. And the company slowly grew. Classical story in a way, as companies go, especially in Slovenia. I think your company is an example of a really amazing story on that level, right? but you also have a very different market projection, yeah. Because for us, you know, it's a container of your clothes. It's one airplane, yeah. In terms of cost, you know. So it's a different way of doing things. But anyway, let's, you know, you asked me about drones. Yes, we do them. We are going also underwater now, and we have all of these same problems. So we're just starting an underwater project internally, completely biomimicry based, and it's
also military.
Or defense, for littoral areas, basically. Detection of mines, detection of intrusions, and so on.
Submarines.
Submarine, of course, yeah. So that's.
Well, the divers are going to be really happy about that.
Really
Probably the last place we could still hide from the thermals.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
You know, because that is actually, I mean, from our experience, of course, we are doing a lot with heat management. The moment, I mean, we are always producing heat, so our organs are always producing heat, and you have to get rid of that heat, otherwise you're collapsing. I mean, the moment, if you are not getting rid of that heat that you're producing, already at a very low activity rate, it takes half an hour that your core temperature reaches 38 degrees, and then you're getting over 38 degrees, and the breakdown or the collapse of the body is pretty, I mean, it's like always, first you lose focus, then
it's a domino effect.
So it goes relatively quick down. So on one side we have temperature that we have to get rid of, and you need the temperature to see us. So the moment that we are getting active, we are in fact because you see us. So as long as we are hidden, maybe in our OP, we might have a chance to even stay low and be hidden. But the moment that we're getting out of our cover, you see us.
Sure, but you know, that's why you always work with, again, you know, with what also the environment provides you. Of course, one thing is in the desert. It's a very different type of approach than in wooded areas and so on. And you know, the game is as old as warfare, right?
Yeah, it's always.
And the game is as old as hunter-predator relationship.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the answers are to these things, and it's a very exciting field. There's no definite, you know, solution to it. My opinion is, you know, that you have to basically get rid of the heat signature as fast as possible. That's the thing.
And
speed.
As there are various systems already available for masking, for thermal masking. What I just heard from the users is that each of these systems has pros and cons. Each of them works under certain conditions, and it doesn't work under other conditions. So if and I'm talking now here to the user, if you're getting some system, please make sure that you really understand where it works and where it doesn't work, because you might be really surprised when the bomb hits you that it doesn't work.
In our field, definitely testing here is the key, just to know the limitations of what you're looking at.
And especially, you know, I mean, there are sensors which are very difficult to defeat. You know, shortwave infrared sensor is very difficult to defeat because it's really focused on sweet spots. Long wave, which is the most common and the easiest, which are uncooled cores that are produced. You know, these cores are produced just by a few manufacturers in the world. This is also interesting. France, Israel, United States, Belarus. Russia probably has something, but I'm not so familiar, and of course China. So this is it. In terms of who makes them. The technology itself was born at my university in the United States. One engineer.
You studied in the US?
I teach still there.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm now taking care of the company, but otherwise I am also a professor there. So UC Santa Barbara. Okay. That's where FLIR in our town, Fleer, was founded by these people.
Wow.
So it's a great story.
Yeah.
And so I know a lot about it from that aspect. But essentially, as I said, when you have different types of sensors do different things, but especially mid-wave, short-wave infrared sensors are very, very temperature discerning, So they can be extremely discriminating. Whereas long wave, which is the common sensor, okay, you can still hide from it if you are in a wooded area very well.
Now that we opened this, I mean, I would really like to hear when we're talking about, let's say, drawbacks of thermal imaging, especially when observing from a height. Is there any? I mean, does, let's say, the temperature differences in nature, like dusk and dawn, periods,
all of this, of course, absolutely.
They take effect, or let's say,
like with everything,
like
it's an art. I mean, you have to work with these systems for a very long time to really kind of know how to read the picture, what you are looking at thermally. And
so interpretation, yes, and then on the other side, on the side of the operator, of course, I mean the soldier, it is of course also knowing how to move, knowing how to act in such an environment which is so new. I mean, this is high-tech battlefield. High-tech battlefield is something that we know now since last February. So this is relatively new. Is the soldier trained to encounter that?
Well, I think our colleagues in Ukraine, they are learning as they go, on both sides, and both those who fly drones and observe, and those who are on the ground, for sure. And they, from what I know and what I've been talking, they do exchange these experiences.
And I think it should be also a very important learning for our Western militaries who are not engaged now in the Ukraine, that this is something where you have to train the soldier in the future. And you have to train him very fast, because it could happen tomorrow. So tomorrow you are confronted with the situation, you have to be there, you are confronted with it, and the drones are everywhere.
Yeah, that's one aspect of it. And the second one is, let's say from my point of view, is the realm that we go into that everybody could benefit is identification processes. Because from my experience, the biggest thing that we were trying to tackle in the military was, okay, we had a thermal, we saw something, we identified it as a human, as an armed person, but now who is it?
Friend or foe?
Is it ours? Is it theirs?
Well, if you ask an engineer, they will say, well, it's very simple. You put a beacon on, it will flash its own pattern, and problem done. But a beacon is as good as the time that somebody records his signature and mimics that same beacon,
that's not really hard to...
and of course, then you counter it with more encryption and more different patterns, but it's again a game of cat and mouse. But I agree, it's very, especially with long-wave infrared sensors, which are the most common and the most available on smaller platforms we're talking, right? When you have a huge platform with giant cool sensors, it's difficult to escape. Let's put it so. It's there. The only way to escape is to take that thing down, which has its own thermal signature. Usually, that is not. Because of the evolution of unmanned systems in the last 20 years, they were present in battlefields where the enemy was not sophisticated. So there was a huge upside. You could just loiter and loiter forever, and Now that's a different story. You come into a contested zone, you will be identified, and you will be probably shut down very soon. So we also have to shield. And we are all the time, and our thermal signature is a big thing too. Not only radar absorption of radio waves and so on, or dissipation, but also thermal signatures are a problem. And most of I know that in the beginning, we all remember the Bayraktar story and so on from the battlefield there. And, Bayraktars, you don't hear about them anymore, right? Well, most of them were shot down in the end, right? And all because they are just a huge target, and they are made for uncontested areas. Yeah? They fly high, they are big. It's easy for a normal manpad to take them down.
Now, when I listen to that, it's clear that there is a lot of information in that area, a lot of information going on in such a battlefield. There is probably also a lot of artificial intelligence required that you can even process that.
I mean, more and more, yeah. People are employing this
because it's overloading
more and more. Especially on the imagery side, there is a lot of efforts to automate certain tasks. But with automatization, there's always a flip side, yeah? When you don't have a human in the loop, you know, the machine it's very difficult to make a machine ethical. Or impossible for now, yeah? And that's the problem, yeah? Because warfare can seem chaotic, but it should be, and it has to be, a zone of rules and law, yeah? And that's where things become really complicated.
So what you're saying is that with all the artificial intelligence, there still should be somebody observing the artificial intelligence and to step in and say,
yeah, you always have to watch the watchers. There is there's a beautiful comic book, Watchmen. You probably have heard about it, maybe not. I strongly suggest it to anybody.
Thanks.
I think it's a fantastic, and Watchmen, there was also a movie later, but, you know, the comic book is fantastic, and, you know, watching the watchers, you know. Or if you go back, there's a quote from Bob Dylan in there, you know, at midnight, all the agents go out and learn things from people that know more than you do. So I think that, yes, AI is definitely here. It's here to stay. There are no rules for now that are very precise about it. Everybody is very worried that deals with these technologies. I can tell you from my own experience, you know, maybe, what was it, 2017, we worked on a project with natural language processing. This is what is now, you know, this was GPT-2 that we used as a model. It was difficult to explain people what it is. Yeah, the project was, I created it with my colleague Matthew Biederman. The project was basically a machine. It was two machines talking to each other, literally, and they were trained on, which the public will find interesting. They were trained on code names for military operations and their descriptions.
Okay.
You know, and that's what the training model. So we trained them, and then they would basically back and forth. They would say, you know, green dragon, and the other one would say green dragon is, and literally invent something, yeah, from the type of. But you could see, because it was a coarse model, GPT-2, none like today. There was errors inside, so you knew it's a machine. No problem. Nobody was worried about it. People thought it was funny, right? And we are now recreating this project, but it's going to talk to each other in GPT-4. I assume it's going to be scary, because it's going to be very precise. And what do you do with that? Yeah. So, in kind of manifestative way, it's very important to teach the public about these things.
Well, that's going to be a nice new movie then.
At one point, you know, movie that machines talk to each other all the time, you know. But AI is here to stay, for sure.
But getting back on topic, I mean, we're getting more and more, at least what I'm seeing as, let's say, more requests from the users, just in those terms, for garments that should or could defeat just that. So our colleagues' inventions, and what my feeling is at the moment, there is no technology out there that can achieve this. Am I right in terms of?
Well,
fabrics and stuff like that.
I know that everybody who has reached already a certain level of technology is working on it. So all the fabric manufacturers are working on it. A lot of garment manufacturers are working on it, because there is two approaches. One is, of course, from the fabric, from the material side, that you are dissipating or suppressing the heat signatures. There is a lot of mirroring technology where you try to mirror the
environment,
environment, the coldness of space, and try to put the body or the heat signature of the person at least close to the signature of the surrounding in which he is operating. But none of them really works on a wider scale. Like I said before already, they might have certain advantages regarding certain sensors, certain wavelengths, but is it worth it? Because the suits, one of the suits that we were doing a couple of years ago, the price was 2,000 euros, and you couldn't even wash it. So you know, you're talking here very, very specialized equipment. That is nothing that you could equip now a whole battalion with.
Yeah.
So for me, the even more strategic question would be, what is the role of the soldier in a future such a high-tech battlefield at all? Is there any role for him? Or what is the specific task? Because the task that he had to, you know, reconnaissance or to hold or to whatever, you're much better in that.
Yeah.
That role is gone because he's detected within minutes, probably seconds, and then he's history.
Yeah, and going back to that, I mean, every action is going to create heat.
Yeah.
And whatever the soldier will wear,
Absolutely.
we're going to still come back to that issue of overheating, heat stroke and everything. So that means we will have to, that soldier will have to dispense the accumulated heat from the body, which is playing into your field of observation. And we're just, to be honest, I don't even see, even if the technology goes as far and as beyond my imagination can go in terms of garments, we will still have to tackle that problem, and that's us moving, creating heat, and then dispensing heat. And that heat is actually what you guys are looking for with your sensors.
Heat and other spectral signatures, right? That's the thing, you know, heat is one thing.
Like you said.
Temperature gradient is one thing, but then you have other spectral signatures connected to different types of materials. Explosives have their specific spectral signature. So in the end, you know, the battlefield can be observed, cataloged, dynamically understood, but it can also be shaped. It can also, you know, it can also be. So it's a very, you know, it's really a counterpoint situation.
And you know, the thing is, I mean, one could still think theoretically about, you know, I'm cooling down the body. I'm working on whatever. I'm providing to the soldiers certain systems which make him less detectable, but he has to carry them. which is the downside. He cannot carry them. So then you say, okay, well, we're working on exoskeletons, but you know, you are then, I mean, at the end, you're just putting a brain into a machine. And you're again at kind of a drone.
So Arnold Schwarzenegger's idea of putting mud on it and defeating everything, so that's kind of passé. It doesn't work anymore.
Doesn't work anymore, no. But you see, you asked before, you know, what is the future of, I mean, you asked a very similar question, what is the future of warfare, how it will look like? And obviously it's going in this direction of autonomy, robotization, and so on. But I would ask a very philosophical question here, of course. You know, maybe then humanity will realize that warfare is not the solution.
Well,
You know, in the end, yeah? Because it always comes to that, yeah?
And then it just depends where that end is.
I would hope that
That it becomes a kind of sport, like Formula One, you know?
Yes.
Where technology is, you know, has to be perfected to the last moment and you have these micro advantages. Okay, we love this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's, in the end, this is the final solution, because it's true. Through technological and scientific means, there will always be a point and a counterpoint.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah? And we are just learning this now. Of course, this is a very acute situation, and we have to address it all the time now with the war that is going on. But in the end, we come to philosophy.
Yeah.
You know, law, philosophy, reason. Things like that.
If we are approaching that philosophical, then anyhow, the only solution for mankind is stop war.
Absolutely.
It's the only solution. Otherwise, we are anyhow.
Because all of these technologies have fantastic uses.
Oh,
you know, cooling down. I mean, come on.
Yes.
It's great. Yeah. Yes. First of all, the planet is heating, so the dissipation of heat is very productive.
It should be a major undertaking.
It should be a major undertaking, and sequestration of CO2, all kinds of stuff, right? So, in the end, this is, I think, where, you know, we will have to kind of consider. But of course, this is not something that the three of us will not solve it, but we at least understand it.
And
and we have beer, which is good.
And we have beer, exactly.
And it's always a good starting point.
Yeah.
I mean, there always has to be someone who is starting to spread whatever is positive for humankind. That's my philosophy. So I think we have reached a very good conclusion of our topic, and unless you have some other ideas, then I would say, well,
that's the only probable thing. I mean, to take out, at least from my point of view, as somebody who has served and been in uniform, is that at the moment, probably everybody has to look into their TTPs. And how do they conduct missions and how do they plan them, especially in the time frame that we were talking about, to try to counter or at least disrupt the current systems that we use for observation.
Absolutely. And you know, let's continue just a little bit, right? Because this is, you know, it's about training. I think we mentioned that before, and I think this has to become part of the curriculum to understand what sensors are there, what they can see and what they cannot. Right? We know exactly what sensors exist, so that's easy. And we know which are the most common. Adjusting the TTPs, essentially trying to minimize the risk. It's a risk mitigation situation.
Yeah, I know.
That's
we did the same thing with IEDs, or I'm talking about the Western world. We did the same thing with when we confronted IEDs in the Middle East. That was also something new, and we had to adapt. The adaptation was taking all the time. We always invented new TTPs to counter that, and I think
we were even involved in that, you know.
There we go. And,
in Afghanistan, the Italian army used our airplanes to do very precise visual light maps of the roads that they were in Herat province that they had to go through, and then they applied a change detection algorithm to see if some stones are in a different place from day to day.
Wow.
Stuff like that. Really? So you can do these things, you know. And as far as I know, they didn't have an IED on that road. So that was very successful, and we did it on the fly. I mean, it was a coarse solution, you know, off the shelf. Commercial kind of scientific, a little bit open sourcey, but we gave them the wherewithal, the tools to be able to do that at that time. This was 2015, 14, 15.
And I think this is what everybody that's listening should take away from this, that new technologies and garments, they're not that close and not even... not even in foreseeable future.
Exactly, that's what I wanted to mention. Don't count of us on it that we are going to bring out next month something which solves the problem. Not at all.
And TTPs are here, the way to go. Trying to understand. I'm gonna say enemy, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So what's on the other side? What is it? What
is on the other side?
Of,
Yeah.
And what are its drawbacks? And try to exploit those drawbacks, just as always in war. And adjust your TTPs, and that is probably the biggest takeaway.
But you know, from our friends, we know even that very simple camouflage for an operations vehicle in Ukraine still works.
Yeah.
Right? So with all the sensors in the air and whatever, old school, what we learned through the 20th century works. A ghillie suit works.
Yeah, it does.
Bio camouflage with leaves works.
Yeah.
So let's keep it simple, nah?
Yeah, don't overthink it. Yeah, that's the main idea. When you're adjusting your TTPs, don't overthink
I mean, but just be aware of the limitations.
Yeah,
There are.
This
there
is
always will be.
what is really, really important. Know what you're doing, know your equipment, know the limitations, and know how far you can go. And
Because you can see, tracks from cars that have passed hours ago.
yeah,
They have a thermal signature.
yes.
So you just follow the tracks.
There is always something on the end of the track.
Yeah.
yeah, and you can always use that to lead them somewhere else. Well, that's
Exactly.
thinking
See,
about it.
he's in the right way.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
So
really good talk.
I have here something for you, Marko. We're sitting here with these super cool T-shirts, and we thought it might be a little thank you for being here with us. And we have one of
Thank
our
you.
cool limits our mindset.
Thanks so much.
Also blends into the topic that we had today.
Yeah, limits our mindset. Yeah, that's how we think too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Many times we say no limits,
Yeah, they're all in your mind.
they're in your mind. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you for
Thanks.
being here.
exciting
That
talking
was
to
a
you.
great conversation. Really enlightening. Thanks, Marko.
Thanks.
So, guys, like always, if you have any questions or any comments, then please leave them in the comment box below. Like always, they are welcome.
Yeah.
We'll try
Thanks.
to answer them as soon as we can.
Yeah, me too.
I hope you liked it as well. Thank you for listening, for watching, and see you next time on a Beer 30.
Cheers.
Cheers.